Raloxifene and tamoxifen for the treatment of gyno and for other uses in bodybuilding, comparing side effects and how to use them. Subscribe to the channel because I want to give you the most cutting edge information and try and consolidate it all so it's really easy to understand. Bottom line, spoiler alert, raloxifene is better for treating gyno than tamoxifen, but they both work. But tamoxifen is better at treating low testosterone, like after a cycle when you're doing post-cycle therapy and you need to regain your natural testosterone back. Tamoxifen is more effective for that. So if we're just trying to treat gyno, which is usually what we're trying to do on cycle, if we're bodybuilders and steroid users, we take things like testosterone and dianabol and these other steroids that aromatize into estrogen. Too much estrogen can cause gyno. Also, trenbolone and deca cause me gyno worse than anything. Some people are more sensitive to them. And I was also nervous to use tamoxifen because I read, and I didn't research this deeply, but I read a long time ago that if you take tamoxifen, it might actually make you more sensitive to gyno. But it doesn't matter anymore because I don't use tamoxifen anymore for treating gyno on cycle. I use raloxifene. This is what the bottle looks like, and I'm taking it right now. This is 20 milligrams per capsule. Now, I did experiment with different dosages, and I noticed that 20 milligrams does nothing for my gyno. The protocols online say to use something like 60 milligrams, even up to 80 milligrams, which would be 3 or 4 of these capsules in the very beginning to get the gyno under control, and then to drop the dosage to a maintenance dosage of 20 milligrams or even up to 40 milligrams. So I think the reason why some people are not having success with raloxifene is based on the dosage. But for the people who are taking the right dosage, I look at the testimonials, the anecdotal reports on it, and I read stuff like this right here. I did 750 test E 400 tren per week, raloxifene 60 milligrams every day, and had amazing gains. Gyno and chest fat literally evaporated into nothing. I'm gyno and chest fat prone, and I'll definitely say it was, so he's going to use it going forward. He's never going to do a cycle without it. Now, I do have a worry about using raloxifene or tamoxifen too much on cycle or any other time, but especially on cycle. And that is that estrogen is part of the muscle building process, especially muscle hyperplasia when we're trying to build new permanent muscle cells and during things like a mass blast, for example. You need the estrogen in order to start the satellite cell process of creating new muscle cells or new cells incorporating their DNA or their goodies into existing muscle cells to upgrade the structure of the cells. And to me, that's what's most important because my interest is in building permanent muscle, not muscle that you just inflate and then it just disappears. So estrogen is an important part of that process. Now, there are studies out there showing that if you take something like tamoxifen, you block part of this process. Now, this process doesn't need to be going on all the time. It's perfectly fine to be using tamoxifen in short times. But I worry about starting a SERM like this, selective estrogen receptor modulator, like raloxifene or tamoxifen at the beginning of a cycle, just anticipating that we might need it. So I would use it as needed. The drawback of that, it might be too late. Like gyno comes on fast, and once you start getting the gyno, then it's harder to reverse it than it is to prevent it. Like when I first got gyno for the first time, ever since then, now it's easier to get gyno, but it was really hard to get gyno the first time. Like I went a long time never getting gyno, and then once I got it, then it was always easier to get. So it's nice to not necessarily take something in anticipation to prevent the gyno, but have it ready and be ready to put a protocol in place immediately upon the first sign of gyno is what I would do if I was going back in the past. Now, if we compare the side effects of the raloxifene and tamoxifen, they're pretty much the same side effects, except for that I'd say tamoxifen has more side effects in that you're getting less benefit for gyno for the same side effects, if that makes sense. Like you're gonna use raloxifene to be much more effective than tamoxifen, and you're gonna get less side effects because this is actually gonna work, and you're actually gonna be able to stop it, or you'll be able to drop the dosage sooner and have potentially less side effects. Plus, it is more targeted. So when I'm trying to solve a specific problem like gyno, I want the thing that's gonna address it as narrow as possible and not have a lot of other peripheral effects in the body. That's why we use things like SARMs that specifically build muscle but have less impact on the rest of the tissue in the body. Same thing with a SERM. I don't want to block the benefits of estrogen in other parts of the body. I just want to block the effect of estrogen on my nipples to prevent gyno. So Raloxifene is more specific towards that and therefore has a greater benefit to side effect ratio when used for that purpose. But likewise, on the other side, for PCT, for post-cycle therapy and getting natural testosterone production back, I'd rather use Tamoxifen because I'm going to get more benefits for the side effects and I'll be able to use a lower dosage. So what's the dosage comparison? So we said that with the Raloxifene, it's usually, let's say 80 or 60 milligrams up front, just for a short period of time, let's say 10 days, even 5 days. It could be short enough, long enough to get the gyno side effects under control to where we can drop the dosage. Just depends on how fast we caught the gyno in the beginning and how sensitive we are. With Tamoxifen, it's usually 40 milligrams for 4 weeks and then 20 milligrams for 3 weeks after that. So you could see the dosage of the Tamoxifen is usually a little bit lower than the dosage of Raloxifene. So 40 milligrams of Tamoxifen would be like taking 60 milligrams of Raloxifene. So we have to take a little bit more Raloxifene than Tamoxifen. That was my mistake when I first started experimenting with it. I've found, 20 milligrams of Tamoxifen for its purpose of like boosting testosterone actually does work. It does do something. And yet the 20 milligrams of Raloxifene for gyno purposes just wasn't strong enough for me to do anything. And I did many experiments with this and it didn't work. And it was only after I took the dosage up to 60 milligrams and didn't miss any days that then it really started reducing the gyno. Because this is something reason I'm doing this video right now is because I'm getting the gyno right now. And I said, okay, finally I'm going to up the dosage of Raloxifene to the 60 milligrams and I'm going to take it until the gyno's gone. And if it doesn't go, then I know it didn't work. But if it does go, then it did work. So it is working this time. I just, like I said, didn't take a high enough dosage before. So I think Raloxifene, summary is the choice for gyno and Tamoxifen is the choice for PCT, and both of them have pretty much the same side effects, and it's not a good idea to be on them unless you really need them, but it's totally fine to be on them for short periods of time. And whether I'd use them as a preventative measure during a whole cycle, yeah, I would, so long as I had normal estrogen before the cycle. So at least I'm going into the cycle with my muscle cells being primed with the estrogen so that they did have some period of time with the benefits of estrogen before I start blocking it. And the other thing we don't know is, does Raloxifene have any negative impact on the estrogen's effect to benefit this muscle building process in the muscle? Because it's possible that Raloxifene is so much more selective towards the gyno tissue, and that it may even, some of these SERMs actually do act like estrogen in certain parts of the body, like in the liver, for example. That's why someone using Tamoxifen can actually have really great liver outcomes, because you need estrogen for the liver, and Tamoxifen acts like estrogen in the liver, and so people's lipids can improve, for example, versus using an aromatase inhibitor and crashing estrogen that way, and then their lipids, their cholesterol panel gets really bad. So personally, I like to use an aromatase inhibitor to keep my estrogen roughly in the normal range, a little on the lower side if I want to burn fat, a little bit on the higher side if I want to bulk up, hold more water, do more muscle hyperplasia. And then if, despite my estrogen being in the normal range or even in the lower range, I get gyno, then I add the Raloxifene on top of that. So I use an aromatase inhibitor first, and if that doesn't work, then I add in the Raloxifene. And also, I wouldn't really, if it was just testosterone, I wouldn't really need Raloxifene. I would just use an aromatase inhibitor to keep my estrogen in normal range, and that would be enough. It's when I use other compounds, like if I use Dianabol, if I use Trenbolone, if I use Deca, if I use Trestolone, Ment, like these are the ones that can cause me to get more gyno. Dianabol, because it converts to a powerful form of estrogen that can kind of be more powerful than the aromatase inhibitor, or like taking a little bit of Dianabol is like taking a lot more of testosterone, for example. There's going to be a more potent conversion to estrogen than there is from testosterone at a lower dosage. And then also with the Tren and the Deca, Like those seem to give me gyno directly without even having high estrogen, even if I crash my estrogen. So if I use an aromatase inhibitor, I get my estrogen down in the normal range, and I use tren and deca, I will still get gyno. And then I take pramipexole, I will still get gyno. So this guy that did this anecdotal report about how he went high dosage testosterone and high dosage tren, and the Raloxifene was able to prevent his gyno when normally he gets a lot of gyno from this. I understand that. It's working for that purpose. For the reason we were afraid to use tamoxifen with tren and deca because it could actually make it worse, and then we hope to find an alternative to tamoxifen. And again, I never looked into the science of that. That was bro science that everybody in the industry would echo. And it wasn't until I found Raloxifene years ago that I'm like, okay, I'm totally comfortable with using a SERM on tren or deca because I know it's at least not going to make the gyno worse from tren and deca, or for someone who's very sensitive to tren and deca gyno. At the same time, at the very least, blocking the estrogen's effect on making more gyno, if not the progestin and the prolactin side of growing gyno. One other element to this is the growth hormone. So if I even have the smallest amount of gyno growing, if I'm growing growth hormone, insulin, IGF, it will expedite the gyno process. Like I will grow much more gyno much faster. So it's really important. It's like a swing. Like, is gyno growing or is it shrinking? If it's shrinking, then I can use growth hormone and it's not likely to make it worse, unless it's MK677, increasing prolactin. I have to keep prolactin down even more. Then if the gyno is growing even just a little bit, then I got to be really careful with the growth hormone because it'll expedite that growth. Got it? So that's how it all fits together. That's how I prevent gyno on myself, and I'm doing it for my clients and being very successful with the Raloxifene lately. Be swell and swole, friends of freedom, pioneers of human evolution. A day natty is a day wasted.